Hey y'all, what's going on? Brandon Snyder, team leader of Selling with the Snyder Group out of the greater Houston area. I am here with Dave, your mortgage guy, and we are the Super Real Estate Bros. In today's podcast, we're going to be talking about what, Dave?
Look, is the Houston real estate market a train wreck, or is it?
We're going to highlight a few tactical things for the consumer and a real estate agent to make sure that you get in the best position to win in equity. We're going to be talking to our sellers. We're going to be talking to some buyers as well, and seeing what we can be doing to combat what we've kind of experienced. Real quick, before we get into talking about sellers and buyers, Dave, give me the layman's terms on what happened the past 3 months. Since July, basically.
Absolutely. So we've obviously seen a humongous increase in interest rates during that period, right? You know, without going back and remembering off the top of my head, I mean, from the beginning of the year when we were closer into the threes to all the way to where we're now in the sixes and a lot of situations in the sevens. This is October of 2022 that we're talking about this, right? So depending on when you hear it, rates could be different. So that has completely changed the landscape of the market. Now, with that being said, I think there's a lot of buyers and sellers and people in our industry that with this much uncertainty, they have no idea what the hell is going on and where this is gonna go. And so in this video, we're gonna break down some factual things and where Brandon and I think and know where this market is gonna go. So Brandon, let's jump into right away. Sellers, what do they need to know about this market and what should they prepare themselves for?
Yeah, so a lot of people that we've talked to recently, home sellers, we've talked to them and we've said, hey, we had to set the expectation. Unfortunately for them, there's no longer 20 people banging down your door to buy a house. And the more we're honest about that, having that realistic expectation, I see agent colleagues of mine on Facebook, they go, the market hasn't slowed down, what shift? And I'm like, that's really ignorant. Like, I'm gonna say that right now. I think that is a really bad perspective. The market has shifted, right? We're still taking listings, we're still helping buyers, but when I'm going to my seller, I say, hey, the market has shifted. I know your home is worth X, based on the comps. I can't look at those comps anymore. I'm looking at not at the comps from 3-6 months ago. I'm going right now. I'm actually looking more at actives right now. And if there's actives in our neighborhood, if they wanted to list at 260 and the actives at 245 and it's not selling, there's no way you're going to convince me. And I might not be the right fit, right? But I'm going to the listing appointment, setting the right expectations and saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I completely agree with you that your house will appraise at 275. But right now in this current market with interest rates, if you want to sell it at 275, here's what we need to do. First of all, we're not usually listing that high. But most importantly, we're offering a seller concession. I think this is really important to think about for the average seller right now. If you want to go buy another house, you're going to run into the same problem. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. You're going to talk about the lending side and the buyers and getting them, rate buy downs. But sellers should be prepared right now to absolutely buy the rates down for the buyer. And I'm not talking about giving away the kitchen sink because we still have to go through repairs and we still have to go through all this other stuff. But I think, and most importantly, it's going to be let's offer a rate buy down or encourage it. It doesn't have to be right out the gate. You might get lucky and someone comes in and offers. We had this happen on a listing the other day, 5K over, and then they wanted 5K in closing costs. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. We'll close it next week.
Well, and I think too, as a seller, you have to prepare yourself that the home could sell in a range like previously, right? Give yourself, you can't say we're listing at 285, I'm gonna get an offer for 295. Mentally prepare, specifically at this time of year and moving forward in this market, prepare yourself, there's a range there. Don't fall in love with a bottom line, because you're gonna set yourself up to be possibly disappointed. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. And I think too, it's the seller contribution period. A lot of buyers that are in the market now are buyers who were not able to buy in the last 2 years.
Right.
They didn't have enough saved and they needed some seller contribution from a seller. They lost out on some offers because they couldn't offer way over. And so those buyers are now coming in, making it, in my opinion, I think the next 6 months to 12 months would be the greatest period for home buyers to get deals out of what was the previous 2.5 years, and they need to take advantage of that. You know, there's a lot of talk about where rates are currently. Nobody is talking about where rates are gonna go, right? Meaning, once we get through this, yes, they're gonna increase. Oh my God, there's rates that are in the 7% now, right? That's a short-term thing.
Right, 100%.
And I've done videos. There's a video, I think, when will rates come down? It's on my YouTube channel, Dave Your Mortgage Guy. And there's a graph where every session, it shows how rates are increased, right? Or do increase. And then once we come out of the recession, how they come back down. I'm going on the record now and saying, I believe possibly most likely second quarter of 2023, that the rates start to increase down, and eventually we're going to be in more of a 4.5% interest rate.
That's what I've been saying. I literally said this in my most recent video. I said by next summer, Q1, Q2, I think we're really going to see the rate shift. And mind you, that's just from looking at recession data. I was in a really cool session. To close your ears, Dave. You don't want to hear this. I was at a Chase. It was for agents who are partnered with their program. We get leads and stuff from them, qualified buyers. And they had an economist come out and talk. And I think he's at JP Morgan, right? They're the sister company, or their umbrella company. And he said, hey, like every recession, this is exact data. I want to point out something, and you'll love this because we're both numbers guys. The average credit score of a buyer of the past 2 years, it was like 60% of it was over 700.
Yep.
That's freaking insane to me, because we talked in another episode about the 2008 collapse that Dave wasn't responsible for. I just want to clarify that. If you've listened to the last episode, Dave was not responsible for 2008.
Thank you.
Shout out Legend Home Lending for being recession proof. I think for me, hearing that and understanding that we're in this market where the qualified buyers are still out there.
Yep.
As a seller, you have to be prepared for maybe being on the market for a couple of weeks. But all of this still matters. You price the home right, it's in the right location, right neighborhood, right school district, it doesn't matter, it'll sell. Those are the things that matter, right? People want to move to good school districts. If you move to Tomball, Magnolia, Conroe, Friendswood, I did a video about like all the top school districts. There are so many different factors that will help your home sell, including price. I mean, price is always the best thing, right? Like that's what people want. They want the best price. Buyers are buying into equity right now. So let's talk about that for a little bit. So buyers are buying into equity right now. So what does that shift look like? When you're talking to buyers, you're like, I don't want to pay 7% interest rates. Are you telling them that? Like, hey, you're buying into equity?
And I think too, look, this market shift happened quickly in the most recent period. And what I mean by that is the rates really jumped in the last month to where we're at. So I think some of it is going to be a little bit of settling to where people become not so sticker shocked with the rate. But buyers, if you're in this market going into it, you need to know, man, I could get a house for $20,000 less than what I could have bought it for 6 months ago. Well, paying a higher interest rate for a year and having $20,000 equity in your home, yes, your payment went up, let's say $300. So your payment, quote unquote, is $3,600 more, but you have $20,000 equity in your house. So everybody needs to stop and actually look at the whole thing and say, hey, what's the benefit? The benefit is you're getting a better deal on the house. And if you are one of those people who's tight on cash and you're able, I mean, we're seeing it. We talked about this. Sellers paying $9,000, $10,000 in closing costs.
It's wild. But that's the thing is that I think it's about messaging, right? Because what I'm hearing a lot of and what we're talking about is when you watch the news, and I'm sure if anybody has watched the news, now mind you, I don't have cable, so I want to clarify that me watching the news is like a sign from God. But if you're on Twitter, you're on the Book of Faces, and you go, oh my God, interest rates are skyrocketing, I'm not going to go buy a house. And then you see the post from, well, in 1985, the interest rates were 16% on your $60,000 house. Stop that. You're bad. If you're an agent doing this, stop doing that. That's bad marketing. Tell the truth. The truth is that homes in Texas, in the Houston market, appreciate 3 to 5% a year, normally. Past 2 years, it was 15 to 20%. That's dumb. Don't pay attention to that. natural appreciation in the state of Texas is a thing. I don't know about like, you know, the Midwest where like their homes are $120,000 regardless of what market we're in. But in Houston, we have naturally appreciating assets. So as a buyer, why wouldn't you want to put your money not in the stock market? Because I don't know about you, but I've gotten shellacked in the past year in the stock market. Why not put your money in something that appreciates?
Correct. And I think the vast majority of wealth in the United States is in people's homes or out of their homes when they go to sell it, right? And so I think one thing that scares me most is if the narrative becomes 7% is too high of an interest rate to pay, which whoever's saying that is just
not educated.
It's just correct.
I know what you're thinking, but not educated is
correct.
The correct word.
Versus swearing, it is just asinine, and that most likely means that they probably live in their mom's basement, right? And I say that because if the scare tactic is to scare you from making one of the best and safest investments, they're doing that because they're going to get views. So if I show a burning building in my face and I say, don't buy a home now, people are going to click on it. If I show a smiling face and a nice house and I say you should buy a home, no one's clicking on that video. So you really need to be careful who you're listening to for that advice, because, and you can look this up, the vast majority of wealth is from real estate. So everybody who buys a home bought it at X, in 20 years, 30 years, it's paid off, it's worth X. For many people, that's the vast majority of their assets, hence retirement in a lot of examples.
I want to jump into that. I think that's a really good third topic we should talk about, but I want to clarify real quick. So what we're saying, sellers, price right, work with a professional that's going to help market your property in the best way. This is the time to do professional pictures. This is the time, if you haven't, bad agents, shame on you. But professional pictures, you hire a photographer, don't do it yourself. It's a waste of time. Hire a professional photographer. If it's a certain price listing or in a nice area, do a video, do aerial if it's an oversized lot or a big yard, whatever. Do the extra things. I know it's a little extra out of your pocketbook, but these are the things that you have to be doing. Hint, the things you should have been doing already, but if you haven't been doing them, great, get started on it now. And the sellers need to be working with you on that. So you need to have the realistic expectation conversation about timeline, price, cleaning your house, fixing things. If you're a buyer, go get that rate discount. Go get your closing costs paid for by a seller, or Dave, close your ears again, new construction.
You're killing me with this podcast. Straight killing me. We're gonna have to talk about this before we do another one.
But in reality, I mean, we're having a conversation with our clients. Hey, this is the time to get seller contributions, regardless of what construction it is, whether it's a resale or new construction. Get the seller concessions.
Well, and I think, let me jump back in. I think one thing that would be concerning is if you're blanketly just going out to get a pre-approval, right? And you just get a number and the bottom line shows that you need $20,000 and you don't have $20,000 in Rocket Mortgage, or it's an online lender or somebody with back.
I was gonna say, I don't know the last time you wrote a pre-approval where you didn't verify their assets or income before you sent me a letter, but that's just how you do business.
Correct, but I think also don't allow it to be sticker shock. And you see that sometimes where if you're not working with a lender who's explaining that, you're not working with an agent who's saying, hey, let's have this sell, figure out a number, but do not get pre-approved. And I can't say this enough. Do not get pre-approved. They send you general estimates straight out the gate, no conversation, and at the bottom line, you see a number that's just way too big to possibly imagine. Right. Do not freak out. We're in a market right now where the sellers are and have been and may, for what I believe, maybe the 6 months to 12 months, aggressively paying closing costs because the homes are sitting. So you as a buyer need to really know what you're looking at and ask questions. Ask your agent, hey, I got this estimate. Does it look right? I don't have $20,000. In fact, I'll jump in. We just had this happen. We had a client get an estimate from Wells Fargo. The numbers were off by $10,000.
Yep.
So they needed 40 for closing.
They tried to charge real estate commission on a loan estimate. What?
It was horrible. But the client who did not know that and trusted them actually backed out of the deal because the numbers didn't work for them. Well, of course the numbers didn't work because the shit was wrong, right? The numbers are wrong. So, and I just saw this coming into the podcast, that's something that concerns me, that a possible home buyer who is educated and defaulting to this information may have wrong information and not know where the market is. So if your agent isn't automatically asking, do you have enough for funds? How tight is it gonna be? Are you okay with the numbers? Let's have the seller pay some closing costs. If they're not having that conversation, the lender's setting you up to fail, the realtor's setting you up to fail.
I wanna talk about something that I think is highly important. Dave, you're not much older than me. You're only a few years older than me.
Thank you.
And one of the things that we talk about a lot together is wealth building. Now, what I'm about to say is completely opinion-based, but it's based on facts. I believe that it is, and I'm sure you would agree with this. We talked about it last episode. This is not 2008. If you are sitting here right now and you're saying, well, the real estate market's gonna crash, I'm going to wait. I wanna share something with you, and this is it's not insider knowledge, but this is what I see, okay? If someone is buying a house at $270,000 and they get a $10,000 concession from the seller towards closing costs, that does not change the value of the home. The home closes at $270,000. That means that the appraised value, most of the time when the appraiser comes in and appraises it at value, most of the time, that means that the home is selling at $270,000. That means that the home prices aren't dipping. They're being reduced to what they should be. There's no more pie in the sky pricing, but if the seller concession is being given, that means that the home prices are still appreciating naturally.
Correct.
How is that going to cause a market to crash if they're actually selling at the price they should? Now, mind you, the numbers have gone down. Like, I've seen a lot of price reductions. We send out a weekly newsletter to our clients and our database and tell them, hey, this is how many price reductions week over week, stuff like that. But I mean, isn't that just kind of like backwards thinking, oh, I'm waiting for the market to crash?
Correct. I think too, I'm going to layer that. Number one is in the stock market, let's say, you can buy at a dip or a bottom, right? To where it's like, oh man, the market's down 20%, I'm going to invest. Real estate is not that easy because you negotiate what's available. Do you even want to live there? There's too many factors. So are you ever going to hit the bottom right on the dot? Probably very rarely. Here's the other thing, and I know you're thinking about it as a home buyer. Hey, you already said it. When we get out of the recession, rates are going to go down. Yes. Here's what I'm going to tell you. When rates go down, what's going to happen? The news. Hey, rates are the lowest they've been in a year, in 2 years. Now's the time. This is unbelievable. Rates are in the fours. What's going to happen?
Everyone's going to buy a house.
Everyone's going to come back into the market. And instead of you being the only person making an offer, you're going to be one of 3 or 4. It's not going to be 15 like it was. It's going to have a reverse effect and a big uptick. Yeah. And if you're that home buyer who was losing out before, you lost your window because you're hoping for it to come back down.
Dude, this is supply and demand at its finest. I mean, this is, and I think a lot of people, you know, when we're talking to our investor clients who are like, we have one that's, they're liquidating properties because they were gifted and they're going to go buy new ones. You know, for me, it's like, okay, let's continue these wealth conversations, but understand supply and demand. Understand that
correct.
An offer now is probably better than the offer is going to be in 30, 60, 90 days. Like, these types of conversations we're having, it's all based upon supply and demand that we've seen. We went from, you know, there was a video on TikTok that I really liked. It was hilarious. The guy had an apple and he said, I'm selling this apple. And somebody said, I'll give you $300 for that apple. And then somebody's like, I'll give you $1,000. And then the guy was like, well, can I see the apple? He's like, here you go, and like pulled it away. It was like a really funny video, but it
was awesome.
It explained the market what it was. Now it's like that apple might get moldy if you have it priced too high.
Correct. And I always say too, it becomes like that house has leprosy. So what happens is the longer it sits, do you think you're going to get better or worse offers? You're going to get worse.
Yep.
Because people are going to assume you have to sell, right? They're going to lowball you. If you price it right, it gives you the best chance to get 2 offers.
Right.
If you get 2, you got some control there. If you sit on the market for 45 days with no offers, price cut, and substantial price cuts, hey, when that person goes to make an offer, they're gonna offer the list price or less.
Oh, way less. If you're the person that's on Facebook Marketplace and you message someone when they post an item for sale and you say, hey, would you take $20 instead of $40? Like, that's what's happening right now.
Correct.
So that means that we're priced too high. I mean, that's honestly, like, that's what it comes down to. As we talk to sellers, everything is about price correction. We were way too high before inflation, right? But our real estate inflation was stupid. So pricing it right at the right number. And I was talking to one of our brokers. We have like 13 state brokers. And she said, I was like, hey, we're gonna offer out the gate a $5,000 concession. And she goes, why don't you just price the house right? And I'm like, my pride stuck in. I was like, well, what do you mean we're gonna price the house right? I'm pricing it right for the comp. She goes, no, you're pricing it based on a market that doesn't exist anymore, based on a demand that doesn't exist anymore. And I really thought that was profound. So now when we're having these conversations, we're like, hey, like, I think we should list this. I love that. Okay, so let's hop into this real quick because we got a little bit of time left. Wealth building. This is the perfect time to start building your wealth. If you listen to Dave Ramsey, I hate Dave Ramsey, by the way. Dave Ramsey, holler at me. We'll fight. I hate it. He's like, I don't like credit, da, 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 da. And then like some kid comes on and says, I owe millions of dollars in real estate and I'm 25. And he's like, how did you do this? He's like, because I bought it. Dave Ramsey's like, I hate this kid. You should watch that clip. It's actually really interesting. The kid's like, yeah, I have like a 30,000, I make like 30 grand a month. And he's like 21. Like, really? Dave Ramsey says, you know, build your wealth debt free. You cannot build wealth without going into debt. Now, Kiyosaki talks about it. Good debt. We want good debt. Assets that are appreciating in value, not depreciating. Don't go buy a Mercedes, go buy a house. Like the 10 grand you're gonna put into, you know, your down payment on your Mercedes, your G-Wagon, your Tahoe, whatever, save that up a little bit more. You can go buy your first rental property. So let's talk about wealth building, because I know you own rental properties. So
yeah.
What made you want to get into being a not scumbag landlord? You're a good guy. I like you. You know,
I have a management company that handles this. So,
that's a whole nother episode. That's advanced wealth building.
Yeah, that's a whole nother. No, I mean, what happened for me was, as at my age, and this was probably 8 years ago now, as I was starting to look at my retirement, it wasn't going to happen if I didn't make drastic moves, in my opinion, which was buying rental properties that I knew based on doing, like for me, it was like a 15-year mortgage.
Right.
And here's the thing, before we even get into this, there will be people who listen to this who boo-hoo-hoo and poop all over your financial plans that you have, because there's always somebody who says you can do something else. Great, wonderful. The truth of the matter is you need to start with something and then graduate, right? So, and move on or move up. So for me, rental properties was something that, look, it's very easy math to understand. You're putting in X, whatever that amount is, let's say $50,000. A renter is paying the mortgage payment and you're making some cash off of that.
Right.
At a specific period down the line, that home's gonna be paid off and you're gonna get a much larger amount per month in income because of that investment. And to me, more than stocks, more than crypto, more than a lot of other things, I understand real estate, and it was a simple equation that helped me realize, hey, this is the route I want to go. And I have gone on the record by saying, and you're seeing it in the younger people coming up as homebuyers, they're realizing that first purchase is just to own real estate. The next one may be the home and they rent out the first. I think many people, and I'm seeing this even in my age bracket, that are buying just one rental or two rentals. Not 20, not 80, not apartment complexes, not crazy stuff, which is awesome. Just enough so now they have a 401k, they have 2 rental properties that are giving them $2,000 a month in income. Now all of a sudden your retirement plan, for someone like myself, I'm 44, let's say when I retire at 60 or 55, 52, whatever, is completely different than our parents.
Yep.
The only people I knew prior to the last couple years that really owned rental properties were savvier, older guys and gals who had bought them pennies on the dollar during dips or whatever, and they just happened to have all these paid off because they bought them in the 80s or something crazy, right?
They bought it in the great foreclosure market of 2008 because they were smart. You know, okay, so
no, you're right.
So here's the crazy thing about that, because like we had a rental landlord and he was great. I mean, but he owned like 7 properties. He was like, I just do this for fun. He's like, I collect Social Security. I just like have 7 properties in our income, but that income paid, and he sold during the crazy pandemic market. But he was like, man, I do well, and he made a lot of money. He's a great landlord. Daryl was an awesome dude.
Hey, wait, let's talk about Daryl. Not knowing Daryl's situation. Let's say he had owned 7 right? Was it 7 or 10?
7 properties.
7 low end. Let's just say it's low end.
Yeah, it was all low end.
Okay, and let's say he's cash flowing because they're paid off. I'm assuming.
Most of them had like either paid off or small loans, so like 50, 60 grand left.
Okay, so let's say they're paid off.
Yeah.
Let's say he's in retirement, and he just makes $1,000 a month off of each one after expenses, which is
net operating income $1,000 a month.
Right. I mean, because he's making more.
Bonkers. What would you do with $7 grand a month if you were retired? On vacation every damn month.
That's $84,000 a year. Plus, let's say he's getting $2 grand in Social Security. That guy's in retirement getting. This is difficult math, and I left my calculator home. But let's just say $100,000 plus.
He's got a 6-figure income in retirement.
Correct.
And that's so. This is the.
That was my point. All that.
I want to stress this point a lot. My generation and the generation after me is pitchfork eat the rich. I want to challenge you. If you're watching this and you're young, get away from that mindset. Don't eat the rich, out-wealth the rich.
Yep.
Because rich people are miserable, wealthy people are happy. Yep. And I want to challenge you. The wealthiest people are the ones that invest in themselves or their family, real estate, smart stock purchases. I've always been a fan of investing in the S&P 500 every year. It has the best returns, like normal returns every year. This is not financial advice. I'm just telling you that what the wealthiest people are doing. If you watch videos and TikToks of these guys who are like, I own 180 doors, they're like syndicating multifamily. That's a whole other episode. We won't talk about that right now, but we're talking about if you just want to own 5 rental properties, like you can do it. You should start now. Don't wait till you're retired, because when you're retired, those properties are going to be Austin, California prices, $600,000, $800,000 for one unit. Or you can go buy a fourplex now for $400,000 in cash flow.
Don't fall for that somebody is giving you this big picture of what they have and you think you have to do that, right? And I think that's where they get caught up. Buying single family homes is stupid. Buy apartment complexes. Hey, I'm not saying that apartment complex isn't the right way to go. The truth of the matter is you gotta make that first step. The first step, honestly, is you buy your first house.
Yep.
Live in it, get a roommate, the house hacking whole idea, which is another topic for another day. And then in a year or two, you buy a second one. Man, you're a couple years into that plan, you got 4 or 5. Damn, you may not even be out of your 30s yet at that point.
And it's a security thing, it's an insurance thing. God forbid something happens and you lose your job, right?
Yo.
You're naturally appreciating 3 to 5% a year. You put 40, 50 grand into the property, whatever, and you have a good amount of equity. You go liquidate it. That's what people do. I would rather you not. Like, if you can avoid it, don't liquidate your properties. But what an amazing insurance plan. Whereas people's 401k took a hit this past 6 months with the stock market imploding on itself. I mean, my dad literally will retire with a pension because he's unioned with the railroad. But there's people out there that don't have a retirement plan, and even an extra 2-3 grand a month on top of whatever their Social Security, disability, whatever, once you hit 65, you get all these kind of checks for the government for like $700. It's great. Go get checks from people and start building wealth, but do it now. Do it at, in your 20s, 30s. I think that's so important, man. We have such a unique opportunity. We talk about the American dream a lot. I can't go overseas and go buy a ton of property. I can't go to a different country, get a 6-figure job and go buy a bunch of property. I could, but
I'm going to tell you a story that probably I think hits this home. Somebody who I have the utmost respect for. His name's Omar, and hopefully he's watching this. And even if he's not, Omar came to me. I did his loan. He owns, God, I don't know. And I helped him with the finance. I think he owns 3 or 4 rental properties. Works at HEB, makes okay money, and he is literally all in on this plan, and he has more value, more wealth than people I know who make $100,000 a year. And it was amazing to see somebody that smart knowing what they wanted and the real key to doing it with no excuses. Like, everybody can make it like, oh, this and that, it's too hard. But man, you find a way and you hustle, magically you add one, and then you make your goal, save up and do another one. And do another one. Yep,
100%. And the thing is there's creative ways to do it too. If you find distressed properties, we can help you with that. Investing in real estate it's not all about flip or flop. If you've ever watched Tarek El Moussa, That dude owns rental properties. He owns actually a lot of multifamily.
For sure.
I'm going to see him next week. He's going to be at EXPCon. I'm excited about that. He's actually speaking at EXPCon. He's an EXP agent, which is kind of crazy. So is Grant Carter. Grant Carter is an EXP agent.
I saw.
So I think at the end of the day, the message that we have to absolutely stress is go build that wealth. If you are a buyer or a seller of this kind of nightmarish, or what you would perceive as a nightmare, I believe this is where the agents with the quality skills are going to shine. We're going to do our jobs correctly. We're going to guide. We are consultants now. Before we were order takers. Now we consult our clients. That's why on my calendar I don't put a listing appointment. I say listing consultation.
We knew this market was coming.
100%.
This is called the correction, right? And I can tell you, I can see where this market's going, and you can too. We've had these discussions, and I think if you meet with an agent, a loan officer, or whoever, and they don't give you that feeling of there's a plan and guidance in this, you're working with the wrong people.
Well, 100%. Well, this is going to wrap it up for us on this episode of the Super Real Estate Bros podcast. If you can find us anywhere where podcasts are uploaded to and syndicated to, you can find Dave Your Mortgage Guy anywhere across social media at Dave Your Mortgage Guy or DaveYourMortgageGuy.com. I don't know how to do we're doing that. You can find us Selling with the Snyder Group across all social media platforms and sellingwiththesnyders.com. One day I'll buy a new domain name and redo my website. But until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye, guys.